Ronnie Jr. Welcome back from your bye week.
Good to be back. It was like so busy within the week, but actually it wasn't anything that was overwhelming. It was actually a little bit Bravo related.
Okay.
So I was off to the Pantages Theater first of all, but then before the Pantages, had dinner and drinks at Sir, Vanderpump style.
Ooh.
Not specifically because there's all the Vanderpump stuff going on, but like if you're in the neighborhood, you might as well check it out. So that's where I kind of was, and a couple other things too. But gosh, I couldn't wait to come back and talk about the Jersey Gals and Joe and Frank and everybody.
Well, quick question. Were you able to get a drink at Sir because they have their liquor license suspended?
Oh, I was at that time, and it was a week ago. And why is it suspended now? What's up with that?
I don't know. It's a rumor on the street.
Oh, okay. Well, it was good for us, and it was fun, and you do keep an eye out. You're like, oh, I wonder what's going on in these Vanderpump streets. But no, it was just to enjoy Sir Restaurant, and then off to the Pantages Theater. So it was a great week away.
Well, according to Lisa Vanderpump, that's fake news, but she's also a Republican, so we won't talk about it. But we'll talk about it. Supposedly, there were some underage minors at the establishment that ran in the circle of the friends.
Okay, too much.
World.
Let's get to Jersey.
Everyone is here. Welcome back to season 13, episode 6 of the recap of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I am your host, Russell Ray, along with my co-host, randomly Ronnie Jr. You can find him all over the internet at randomly Ronnie Jr., randomly Ron.
Is it hard to say? Oh, damn.
Just tell them what your podcast
Okay, I'll say it real quickly. It's randomlyronniejr.com. It's pop culture at its best. And go see it for yourself. That's nice and easy.
Yes. And again, you can scroll back to the beginning of our intro. You can scan his QR codes. It'll take you right to the websites where he has all his links for all of his YouTube channels where I've been featured, including Real Housewives of Miami. If you have not caught up, catch up, and then follow up by watching our after recaps after every episode before you go back and watch the next. Exactly. If you are joining us today and you are having an adult beverage, if you hear this word, go ahead and take.
Can I say it?
Drink.
Oh wait, it's a surprise. Okay, family. Don't mess with my family. It sounds like a Teresa word.
Yes.
Yeah. You're supposed to be Teresa. Down with the family, and in Teresa's mind, that means you're supposed to have my back. But I really don't care about you. That's how she interprets it, I suppose.
That is who Teresa. I need Teresa to get it together.
Mm-hmm.
Also, last week, I don't know if you were able to catch our episode, but Brie was on co-hosting to fill in as you were gone. I'm going to call it a bye week just because this episode has to do with baseball, and that's what they call it when you're out, whether it's
I was wondering why you said it at the beginning. It was
yeah.
Made me feel like I was gone longer than I was. I was like, what?
No, so in sports, when you don't play that week, they call it a bye week. So you have the week off. You can just go watch the other teams. You can figure out your competition coming in the following week. So I just call your absence last week just your bye week. Because, a little R&R. And if you haven't gotten R&R, once again, head over to Ronnie's podcast and check us out.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this?
Well, Brie, she did fantastic. I mean, the thing about her, I loved a couple things. She I guess has this really great new purchase, a new home, but also you guys had a lot of history in terms of doing the recaps of New Jersey. Real Housewives back when AfterBuzz was going on, and I just felt like a lot of that, when you do something with somebody and then years later you could reconnect, it feels really authentic. So I had a blast watching her do the show. Yeah,
it was so nice. And honestly, we were talking about her coming on when you and I are both here because, again, as men, whether you're gay, straight, bi, or if you're non-binary, you can only relate to the Housewives so much, but a woman's perspective about women who identify as housewives or who identify as women as housewives. It's interesting to get that different perspective because that's not yours and I's mindset. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I
So
think
it was
what it
nice.
makes it's all that perspective. Everyone comes into it with their own vision. People come to it in their vision watching Real Housewives of New Jersey, the ones that have grew up on the East Coast, the ones who have lived on the East Coast, the ones who have lived in Los Angeles. Like everyone,
Mhm.
man, woman, what everyone has a different perspective of the same show, and that's why
Yeah.
I always encourage everybody who has such a difference of opinion. I'm like, great, have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we are watching the same thing, but I can't convince you what I'm seeing through the lens of who I am.
Yes.
I think it makes the show really good because it does make you walk away from every episode like, wow, how could somebody do that to somebody? And yet the other person's like, wait, I thought that was the person who did that to that person. So we all have a different lens that we're coming into the show. So you're right, having I mean, shoot, we'll take other people. Bree could come back.
Look,
We'll invite whoever, really.
well, you know what? I did reach out to this girl on TikTok. She does Get Ready With Me while we recap the Housewives, and I said I would love to have you on.
Mhm.
She did respond, but we're still kind of working out the we're working out,
Negotiations.
yeah, not the
It's
not the
big money around
negotiation,
here over on the Russell Ray Silva YouTube channel.
but we're working it out how she can come on and how she can interact. And like, of course, it was like very last moment right now, so I wasn't able to grab her stuff
Mhm.
and throw it on. But she's interested in coming on, so it's gonna be a great, it's gonna be a great show. It's gonna be a great
Good.
season. It's what did you think about Bree's thoughts of Melissa having a boyfriend, and that I went down the TikTok rabbit hole, and I was in awe about this conspiracy or this
Mhm.
rumor that's going on. There's also a woman who I'm not going to mention out of respect to the cast, who's trying to get into the circle. Maybe I'll mention her next week. I do want to give respect though,
Mm.
because she's trying to get in the circle to get on the show, and the women don't want her on the show.
Yeah.
In relation to Teresa, of course. So she is part of Teresa's crowd, but
Mhm.
the other women are not feeling her. But she's the one who started the rumor that Melissa actually has a boyfriend. And mind you, this man is chef's kiss. So
Yeah, but Melissa was already hanging out with him before. Like, this is not new. First of all, we knew him. He's on one of the Tyler Perry shows, and she was already photographed with him before this ever became like a thing. And that's the weirdest thing about when it comes to getting your sources as like, which social media platform do you want to go to define if something's real or not. Like, I think what ends up happening is back in the day, there was such a minimal selection to what you were to get on any type of media, right? And so now people start to believe that, like, oh, if it's on Twitter or if it's on this one or if it's on that one, it's somehow more authentic. But the weirdest thing is not a lot of the stuff it goes fact checked. Not a lot of it goes, is vetted properly. So there's that term that came out a couple years ago, manipulated media. So I don't get as excited to go to those profiles and see the manipulated media and somehow be like, well, look, Melissa was here at this place and this guy was here at this place. It's like they were already photographed. Like, this is my opinion. They were already photographed, and I think she was even friendly with him. Like, she's not allowed to have a hot friend. Like, we knew this guy. This is not he was not new knowledge to me. The time that he not came out, but the time that it came out that he was the person attached to her, I'm like, well, if they were doing something, wouldn't they want to keep it on like a little bit lower than that? That's the way I see it. But see, I've always been following him. I've seen his career. I've seen his interviews. Like, I mean, he's gorgeous, so of course I watched. But how he started working with Tyler Perry, this, and this. So, and he's from. Well, I don't know if he's from New Jersey, but he has some aspects of New Jersey roots. Like, do people not like who is making these comments? This bit of commentary. It's a lot of people who aren't really involved, so they don't really necessarily know like what it is to be at a press event and to be around this person and that person. So I don't know. And also beyond that, my last thing about that is, who gives a care if she did do that? That's between her and Joe. People running around getting excited about like, oh, well, this is going to show. What's it going to show? What's it going to show? That's her responsibility. Even if she does do the cheating, that's between her and Joe. People act like they got something. But again, I'll give a little bit of I get so excited for Melissa. I'll give a little bit of let me let me wait and watch the entire season. But it's always funny when people decide for you how you're going to react. Like, oh, this is that bit of information that's going to light everything up. You don't know that. You think Melissa, as hot as she is, and Joe is as hot as he is, they've never had opportunity to have to like defend their relationship. Like, this probably isn't that much of a new thing, you know. I'm sure he's very comfortable with this in a way. Joe, he's comfortable yet a little jealous. I think you could straddle both sides because it's a beautiful woman that you're with, you know. And the same thing for her. I think she doesn't want to see him out with young ladies or whatever. I mean, I don't know, man.
I mean, the mindset that I got behind it was I took it back to Will and Jada when it came to their entanglement with August. So if if Joe and Melissa
Bill's messing with Melissa too. Oh no. Now you really heard it first. Forget the other platforms. This is where the real drama happens on the Russell YouTube channel. Man, oh man.
Look, all I'm saying is that my thought behind it was every relationship goes through this period of hard time, right? They go through this period of I'm not so attracted to you right now. You're doing too much and you're not giving me enough attention. Every relationship hits that point, especially because they've been together 17 years. So if they decided that they want to have a little bit of fun, then that's up to them. And I don't know if I would consider it cheating, especially if there's a verbal agreement, or, you know, there might be, what are they called? NDAs that are signed in order to make this happen. But I did think about Will and Jada when they had their entanglement with August. And I was like, well, if an A-list celebrity can do it, why can't a housewife and her husband do this as well? So, I mean, everybody on TikTok is like, this is Melissa's side piece, her boyfriend. She's ready to run away with him. And I thought to myself, it's far-fetched. It's very far-fetched. I don't think Melissa's going anywhere. I think she has an established marriage, and I think they're doing a-okay. But if they wanted to explore a little bit outside of what's going on, it's very trendy right now in today's time. Well, I wouldn't even call it trendy. It's just the new way of expressing yourself, because we are in such a fast-paced society that everybody wants somebody else, right? And or at least desires somebody else. They might not even want to be with them romantically, but just, you know, want to experience that, for lack of better words. And maybe Joe and Melissa went through a period of that, and that's okay, because to each their own. That's their relationship, and whatever works for them, I feel like should not be judged. And if they did not, you know, get entangled with anything, then they're just part of that celebrity life where they're getting thrown into the tabloids of this is happening when it's really not happening. And who knows? PR is an amazing thing, and PR can do so much that is unnecessary sometimes. But
I just think people got to be honest about their truth, in terms of that they just don't like Melissa. So they're going to find a story to narrate behind that makes it like, see, Melissa's not happy. If she leaves, good. It's not what I want, but good. Joe will deal. They will deal. What the more, in my opinion, the more despicable situation would be if and when, because we're going to have to wait till the end of the season to see where this goes. But if the presentation of this information is something that is presented where the kids have to see that, you know, obviously on the show, they're going to, you know, Jennifer talks about that, Jennifer Aydin, they're going to see everything months later. But if this information, this big announcement gets dropped in such a way that the kids have to see that and they don't really even get a time to react to it, that would probably be the thing that makes me the most sad of this situation. But in terms of the guy, again, I've been following him forever. I was hoping he was one of the girls, you know what I mean? And he was not. And I think he had a wife and he had a child, I believe. Again, I just believe. So what I think is, like, people, watch your mouth in terms of, I mean, do what you want. I don't even, as you notice, you keep mentioning the platform. I don't really engage in that platform because it's a lot of nonsense. If you really cared about the sanctity of you know, people being together, I don't know, like do you hate Melissa that much that you're willing to make this, you know, perpetuate this accusation, and you might be messing up this guy's life? That's what I'm saying. There's a big difference. You could not like Teresa and be on Team Gorga. And with Teresa, the only issue that anyone ever had was, is the guy Louis somebody that makes sense for her? You know what I mean? Like, should we really be, vetting him a little bit more before we let him in? That was the only stance on that side. Whereas this stance is like to destroy Melissa. But again, Melissa is a bad bitch. She's a tough girl. She'll get through anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even, as a Team Melissa Gorga stan, I am not worried one bit. Melissa is good. She's either going to continue to fuck Joe forever or she's going to be with the new one. She's going to be good. And Joe's going to be good too. Sorry, I need to. Without
further ado, let's get to the person who is rumored to have start this rumor, Teresa. Now, Teresa's in counseling. Do we think counseling's working for her? Do we think that she's pushed to do this? Do we think it's a storyline? What do you think? She says she's been going for several months now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Teresa going to counseling?
First negative part is that I don't like continuing to hear. People could have their opinions, as we always say. I don't like the idea that like Louis is the reason she's like, in the right space. Louis's bar was set very low. Let's not forget, from the beginning, his bar was very low. So he might be doing good for her, yes. But let's not forget that the bar was very low. But if this is what makes her happy, great. And the part that I'm going to get really excited and support, because I've got quite a bit of duality by the way that I talk. I think it is really good that she does invest in this time. So if in her mind it took Louis to get there, then I think that's great. Am I giving him roses for getting her to therapy? No. Am I giving Teresa roses for being in the building and talking these things out and going through these experiences and these emotions that have been trapped inside of her for all these years? Not to mention she's done this show and been on television, dealt with public humiliation, et cetera, et cetera. I think the therapy is good. So I'll leave it at that. Good on Teresa. Who encouraged her? I guess it could have been him, but I'm not spending time to say great job.
And I do think, I do think that Teresa has grown as an individual. And again, it comes with age. She's been on air almost 20 years now. We're 15 plus years now in the seasons and the time frames, and they had to take the hiatus because she went to prison. So I think it's great. I think you learn about yourself in counseling. I encourage counseling. I think it's a great tool in order to better yourself as an individual. And I mean, is it working? And I think here's the thing. I think people look at counseling like they're supposed to give you the tools to help you lead yourself to where you want to be. But I think maybe in this aspect or this situation, she's hoping that maybe the counselor will see her side and can teach her how to convince her brother that like it's her, I'm the best possible solution, or I'm not in the wrong, you're in the wrong, you need to see that for yourself. And a lot of times older siblings will see themselves as in the right and the younger siblings in the wrong. Now, who's to say who's right, who's wrong? I don't know. But I thought it was great that she's going,
Yeah.
Again,
it's still better. It's still better that she is going than not going.
And it's even just them too. You have no parents anymore. Come on. Like, you have your brother, you have your sister. And when push comes to shove, I'm sure Joe wouldn't let anything happen to Teresa. And I'm sure Teresa wouldn't let anything happen physically to Joe. Again, I encourage all of the in-laws to step out of it. I don't think when it comes to sibling rivalry that there should be any interjection by in-laws. However, if you're drug into it, you should learn how to escape that as soon as possible and really avoid being part of the conversation and let that play out between the siblings. Because again, siblings will hit below the belt, and that's okay in a sense for them because they've worked it out their entire lives. Now, when it comes to in-laws hitting below the belt, you tend to hold things against your in-laws harsher, which is why I always encourage just stay out of it. It's none of your business. I try to practice that myself. It's none of my business, whatever my spouse has going on with his siblings. Not that there's any drama, but if there was a conversation that were to get heated, I need to step back. It's not my place, So I feel like Teresa needs to stop bringing Melissa into the conversation. So I hope the counselor gets her to that point of, you know what? Melissa isn't your blood sister, but Joe is your blood brother, and you need to figure out how you guys are going to navigate this, and you need to leave your husband and his wife out of it.
Yeah, and even the wording too. Well, Melissa is the one who's manipulating Joe to think that even if that's how you feel, you have to go to Joe and address, I'm having trouble connecting with just you alone. You can't like what could you expect from Joe to not defend his wife when you say it that way?
Yeah.
And again, I really am open to ideas of like the Teresa side of things. I just don't know that she words things the greatest, so I have a harder time, really rooting and advocating for her. But on the Joe and Melissa side, I think Joe would receive the information. He ultimately is trying to be like, as a, we talked about this, you and I, as a brother to a sister, you're always a little bit worried and protective of the guy that your sister will date. I mean, it's a very weird protective space. And I just think, like, for some reason, a lot of people aren't seeing that part of it too. If you, in the comments, you could list another side of it, like why it's harder for Teresa to connect with him. I'd be willing to hear it, but just put the words out there in a positive way that makes sense. I just don't see it. You know what I mean?
And to be fair, I mean, we're gonna get ready to go on to our next topic, which everyone can see below. But to be fair, if you really want to preach that you're doing better for yourself and you're trying to better your relationship, there's no reason you should be on your podcast talking about how Melissa doesn't have a storyline. I've only been her storyline. Well, again, the producers have to make a television show, and you kind of got to follow their lead, because if they're going to edit it in that way, regardless, you have no other option than to back out and not do the show at all.
Wait, who said that?
Teresa was talking on the Namaste podcast about Melissa not having a storyline and Teresa only being Melissa's storyline. Now, as you and I know, Melissa owns businesses. Her and Joe do houses. They can very well have that as a storyline, but it's not going to sell as well. So if the production team is leading you down this path, you have no other option than to follow that, especially when it comes to reality television. They have so many working parts that they have to make work, and they have to be able to have everyone engaged, the right amount of drama. The fan base likes more drama than they used to. So there's all these aspects that play into this, versus Teresa and Joe are nice to each other. Melissa and Joe have their business envy, and they are remodeling houses. And Teresa has her cookbook, and it's
well, the Teresa fans aren't gonna like that, but yeah, that's the thing. One thing that I notice, and I don't like it, is I feel like whenever Melissa and Joe do anything, like the Teresa people are very like, oh, they did this to us, like we're like, very much. And I never really like the term usually victim mentality, but there's huge like, oh, and they said this about Teresa and poor Teresa. Whereas you don't realize how many things Teresa does, like you just mentioned on the Namaste podcast, which I listened to a full episode, longest episode ever in life. It was quite boring. But I always do my due diligence to try to it was actually the episode that I listened to was the one where she talked about meeting Jacqueline in Vegas, and I wanted to know why, right? And I tried, and it just was very boring. But the point is, do you notice a difference? Melissa and Joe have such confidence about themselves. They don't run around saying, Teresa went on her podcast and she said something about me. And yes, Melissa and Joe have said stuff about Teresa, explain their side, but do you see a difference? The Teresa people and Teresa herself and Jennifer Aydin, oh God, oh my gosh, they're saying something about me. You're saying something about them too. The only difference is Melissa doesn't run because Melissa has good confidence. That's the difference. Melissa is a confident chick. She doesn't run around.
Huh? But you know why? Because she has actual sisters that she's been able to play that game her whole life. So if you bicker and banter with your sisters and you are a sister, that's so much different than Teresa having to find her way with women. And the only way I can really relate to Teresa, and I'm going to let you finish your comment, is because my brother and I are 8 years apart. So I had to find how I got along with other men. You know what I mean? Growing up, football, baseball, I didn't have that bro mentality. I liked being around the guys. I really liked, I liked being rugged. I liked playing sports. I liked the competitive edgeness, but I also had to find my place as I'm like, how do I interject myself in these guys? Because they really don't like me like that. Like they don't like me being part of their crew. So I get it. I understand where Teresa's coming from, but you figure it out and you move on, you move forward. Luckily, I pledged for my fraternity. Me and my brothers are like this. They're cool. We can go like 3 years without seeing each other. We pick right back up where we left off. And that's why I made that work. But you have to figure it out for yourself, and you have to make it work. And so Melissa is confident because she has that competitive edge of having multiple sisters and learning and knowing how to interact with other women and how to interact with, you know, like everything that comes along with being a woman.
I kind of wish the therapist would ask her that question. Generic question, taking away all the history, if you could possibly do that. Do you feel like it's hard to deal with Melissa because you yourself never had sisters? I just would love to hear what that honest answer sounds like. It sounds like Teresa wouldn't want to hear that comfortably. It sounds like she would be very defensive over that. But the reality is, yeah, I mean, Melissa has the 3 sisters and the beautiful Donna Marco. But I don't think Melissa has brothers, and Melissa, you know, lost her father young. Like, we all have things that don't allow us to connect in a way. And even, like, I gotta say, like, slap on the wrist, shame on myself. Anytime I create a thing that is a reason, it's a very big reason, but you can't get to the point where you use that as a problem for other people. You've got to step up and say, it could be that. Maybe I'm having a hard time. I never had sisters. I feel like evil Melissa is taking him away. Like, just express it. You're going to get a lot further, but we don't need to go round and round about Teresa. I'm 2 things I'm happy about. She's in her love bubble. I hope she doesn't abuse that, you know, and I think that's exactly what she's doing this season. She knows I've got the giant storyline. I'm getting married. So now everyone needs to kiss the ring. And luckily for her, there's a lot of cast members who do that. Joe and Melissa aren't those 2. But I do love that she's in therapy, and I do love that she's happy. So just so you know, the Teresa stands, like, there is a part of me that's like, I'm glad it's working, but just remember, if it doesn't work, what kind of weird predicament that puts Melissa and Joe as the family, because the blood's always really going to be there. And right now, you know, Teresa's, you know, standing up saying, I'm with my chosen family, people she met like 3 days ago. It's a complicated situation. No one wants to be Melissa Gorga stands, but they'll learn.
And that is fair. That is what you're saying is fair. And I never want to see a brother and sister be at odds, and I don't want to see I don't want to see the war between them go on, because I think it's such a sad thing, because the kids ultimately suffer. The kids suffer when it comes to divorce. The kids suffer when it comes to sibling rivalry. And I think it's really disgusting if you can't differentiate the issues that you have with your significant other or your ex-significant other or your siblings or anything like that, and you drag the kids into it. And again, we can get back to this later and put a pin in it. But do I think that Gia should be involved in Housewives? She could. But do I think that she should have an opinion on her uncle? No, because she's still young. There's still a lot of things that can happen between Teresa and Joe before the kids get involved. Yes, it's okay to express your opinions and give those to your parents. Like, I feel like this when it comes to my uncle. But then Teresa needs to relay that directly to Joe and leave it out of the show. Figure it out first and then go from there. But on a lighter note, what I will say is I love Dolores's dad. I think he is just a good-hearted person. Like, he just makes me smile when I saw him on camera. He brought his own soda because he didn't want to put Dolores out, even though she's making tens of thousands of dollars per episode. And I immediately fell in love with him. We don't get to see him very often, or if we do, it's very short. We're usually seeing Dolores with her mom. And I think it's so good that she has such a good relationship with her dad. I mean, like we've said before, everyone goes through ups and downs with parents, because growing in teenage years can be disastrous. But I mean, what a great man. Just good-hearted. Really remind me of my grandpa Lou. Like, just walks into a room and, you know, you just want to hug him because you're like, oh, I just love you. He just gives you like, I can't even describe the word, because I'm just so happy to see him. Like, I want to see more of him. What did you think about?
You know, a lot of joy is in life is brought to you. I mean, obviously, we always think of life as like, you know, we're teenagers and we graduate high school. We go out and have our young, you know, 20, 21-year-old, you know, selves. And those are the good years, the fun years. But the reality is life's biggest joy is with, you know, not like you have to have a child, but like, you know, the youth and the elderly. Like, there's just such a perspective, you know. It's a bit of a comforted blanket, it almost feels like, in terms of the elderly. Like, you know, I could definitively remember when I had, you know, all of my grandparents had passed on, how, you know, it does feel like a little bit different. You know, you're like, wow, like the world was really protected in that way. So I think it's really beautiful for Dolores to bring on the father, and the mother's on quite a bit as well, because she's so rough in her exterior, But at the end of the day, there is a presentation of daddy's little girl, you know, which is kind of cute. And it's just good, again, at all of their ages, because none of these housewives are that young except for Rachel. But
Okay.
beyond that, they are beyond that, they're it's not even, you know, in the case of Teresa and Joe, it's not a guarantee once you get to a certain age that your parents are around anymore. So it's just that extra bonus that New Jersey gives versus all the other shows. You know, the bonus that we get is the husbands do have a role on this show, and the family members, you know, do have a role on this show going back seasons ago, and the parents do as well. So I thought it was really cute. I agree with you.
And you know, in Spanish we call it cariño, like when you see someone like that, because it technically means cute, but it's like wholeheartedly cute, like
Mhm.
very like you the expressatory, like to a spouse or a wife or something like that. But like he gave me that, and I really liked that he was concerned about Paulie when it came to his heart surgery, and he said, you know, this family's gonna be here for you, whatever you need, we're here. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what a blessing it is for Dolores to have a dad like that, because not everybody has that.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's able to be there for her, but then also take his daughter to the side and have a one-on-one conversation with high hopes for Polly, but at the same time, you know, you're my daughter. If it doesn't work out, there'll be another one, you know. And oh my, these are the moments in Housewives. I know people live for the drama, but these are the moments that I live for in Housewives, when you get to see the goodness of people, or you know, just the wholeheartedness. And that's what it really comes down to when it comes to Housewives. Like, you're part of a family, you're part of a bigger crew, you and your crew, and how you're there for each other. We want to see how your network of individuals is working. Like, does the drama add to it, and does it give us something more? Yes, it does. But when you're able to bring someone like Dolores's dad onto the show, and you're really able to see, you know, humble, good beginnings, you understand why Dolores is the way that she is, and why she can command a room the way that she does,
And
because she is good-hearted.
I wouldn't mind seeing more. I wouldn't mind seeing him be a little, like, not frustrated, but aware and worried. You know, you went through a lot with
Yeah.
Frank. You know, one of the things I love, and we can move on, production wise. I kind of don't, going back to old Housewives. I've been watching a lot of old, really New York mostly. Season one, just how the show was so different.
So different.
And I always kind of don't enjoy the new shows, the new, like, you know, the current seasons, because they're just, the instrumentals are just so like forcing down, like they almost like, you know, and because I worked at American Latino TV and we did segment production, I understand very much how choosing the right instrumental will convey an emotion. But like sometimes you got to let the emotion be conveyed. And I thought it was really cool that when they did walk outside, there was no instrumental. It did come up once they did the flashback, and that did start to set the tone. But I love that we had just a little bit of time. You could hear like the walking, you know, the shoe off the sidewalk. It felt very, as you're saying, authentic, and dropping that music out and letting it just be, and letting it just be in its purest form did make the most sense. So I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And I also like that Paulie has his own bachelor pad. And it's very, here's the thing, it's very manly, which I kind of like as well. You know, David's house was gorgeous. It was very in Style magazine, or, you know, Architectural Digest in a way. Like, there was a lot of whites going on, and, you know, very modern, you know, Barnhouse modern, or, you know, it wasn't of a luxe. But I do like that Paulie has his own in his own way, and Dolores appreciates it for what it is. It is very like hard metals and dark grays, and there's a stainless steel, you know, it's a stainless steel charcoal garage door, and he has a Rolls Royce sitting in the driveway. I was like, good for you, Paulie. Like, he's just doing him. So Dolores is there with her own as well, and kind of they meet in the middle of, you're not giving me anything that I don't already have, and you're not also giving me anything that I don't have, but us bringing our forces together is better for the both of us.
You want to know something that I just realized?
Tell me.
Sometimes, and we can move on, sometimes because I was about to tell you that I still am more for David than I am for Paulie, but like I'll let it be. But then as I was thinking I was going to tell you that, I was also saying, but Ronnie, why am I like that? And the reason I'm like that is I'm not really that good when it comes to come on in. Like I'm I guess I'm like a very protective person, you know what I mean? Like, I know Dolores is happy, but let's do it. What do we know about you, Paulie? You know, I vet things a little bit more. And what's interesting about that comment is that Dolores don't know me from a can of paint, but let's say I were to give Dolores that opinion, she could, just rolls off the shoulder. Yeah. But what's interesting about Teresa, when people just wanted to simply vet him, and maybe there was some stuff, or hey, can you give us some information about this video? This could make us feel uncomfortable. Is he in it for the right intentions? And I know those are completely different situations, but the point is, like, sometimes people just aren't that open to like receiving people around their friends or their family member, because you don't know who they're dating if is the right person. But I feel like if something like that were to happen with Dolores, she's like a little bit rolls off her shoulder. Whereas with Teresa, it was, and I'm not trying to dog Teresa, but it became very like, I guess like victim, like she's like the victim mentality. Like you're just against me. Like you're breaking into my love bubble. What if I were to tell Dolores, I don't really know about Paulie. Da, da, da. She'd be like, well, go F yourself. And I'd be like, you know what? You're right.
But again, she used to be a probation officer. She's been up against the big. She's been up against the bad. She knows what the real drama is. So when it comes to all this petty nonsense, like sure, she'll get into the arguments and she'll throw herself into a tiff. But at the same time, she knows what real world problems are.
True.
You know, so I think she doesn't look at the things as serious as some of the other women on the show, because they live such confined lives of luxury, and Dolores didn't always have that. You know, and that's that on that. You know, before somebody bashes their head in. Now, talking about bashing heads, let's talk about the batting cages. I was so mortified to see that not a single person can hold a bat correctly.
Well, Joey Gorga did.
He did all right. He did okay. Melissa holds a bat like this. You're not supposed to hold a bat like that.
My beloved Melissa really had a hard time. But Melissa was popping off, which I like. She was very sarcastic. She was like, oh, maybe I can find my ball player here. Like I loved a little bit of her sarcasm there. So even Rachel's husband wasn't really, no.
I mean, they were okay, but like, no one's really, you could tell no one's really an actual athlete. So here's the thing. You hold the bat, right? Your knuckles are aligned together. You drop the elbow, you swing forward.
Yeah. No, I know. Unfortunately, I played too much Little League and all that. Yeah.
Like this. And then they hit like this. It's like, I don't know if that's going to give you the home run that you're looking for, but A for effort, great. You all have personality and you're there to present a show. You're definitely going to give somebody a show.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to give a show. You're not going to give a game, but you're going to give a show. But there was some good moments in the game, which we'll talk about towards the end. But I really liked that was a moment for all of them at the batting cages, just to kind of like let loose. And there was a little bit of drama brought up, but it was like, this is the couple's night ish, we're going to have fun with it. And you could tell that Melissa's never swung a bat in her life, but she was there to have fun. They were there to have a good time. And
Rachel's really been lighting it up for me. She doesn't come with like giant, big phony energy. Like but she's very like what she does say does like hit and sting in the right way. She hasn't really tried anyone yet, but like I don't really feel like that is a concern of hers. And unless this is just what she's building for us, this whole like anyone could talk, but I make my decisions ultimately. But I kind of believe her. That's the thing. Like I really believe it, because one of the problems I had with Jen, and anyone for that matter, when you go to that high level and try to prove who you are, it feels very flat. And Jen, Rachel is really like low in energy in a really good like she believes what she says. There's no like punching up in order to conclude what she's saying and make you believe it. I'm following her for sure. Yeah.
I think she's gonna have a great career on Housewives. I think she's in for the long run. I think Danielle's also there for the long run. I don't know if Jen Fessler is going to be there for the long run. I think she might be there just for a season or two as a friend. Who else? I don't know if how can I spin this? I don't know if all the housewives will be around for a lot longer. I think Teresa, to say that she'll be there until the end of time, I don't think so. I think she's going to have I know you're gonna hate to hear this, but she's gonna have a Nene Leakes moment where she just wants to step away from the spotlight.
Wait, why would I not like that?
Well, because I know you don't like Nene, and I know I know you just don't like hearing the name.
Oh, okay. But I mean, I like the idea of Teresa leaving.
But I think Teresa will get to that point where she wants to take a break from Housewives because either her daughters are going to start having, they're going to start having those young 20 life crises. And I don't know. I think Teresa is competent enough to know that she wouldn't want to put her daughters out there like that. And producers are going to want to put that out there. And I think that argument will come as a, no, you're not going to film my daughters. If you can't agree with me with that, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to stop filming. And I think eventually she'll be welcome back to the show. Now talking about Melissa and saying that when she made that confessional about having a ball player, or show us that ball player. What did you think about Danielle's response to Margaret explaining that Melissa is gorgeous and that she can have a ball player if she wanted? She could have anybody if she wanted. What was your response to that? Because I have my own thoughts on it, but I want to hear what you thought about it first.
That Margaret insinuated that?
Well, Margaret was confessing to Danielle what actually happened and that she told Melissa to her face. But what was your thoughts on Danielle's response to Margaret telling Melissa that she could have a ball player if she wanted?
Well, remind me her response if you're asking it in that way. Remind me exactly what she said.
Danielle's response?
Yeah.
Well, Danielle in her confessional was like, don't tell me that I could have a ball player if I'm feeling down about my marriage. Tell me that my boobs look great, or tell
her thing was like, well, see, that's the challenge here because Danielle is great, but she keeps aligning with the not the winning team, in Teresa and Jen Aydin. It makes sense what she was trying to say, like that it's kind of a dig. But again, Melissa don't give a damn. She's so confident. This is what I'm trying to say. She is so confident. I could understand the wrong person taking that the wrong way. Absolutely. Like you're kind of, making a jab that I'm on a rocky thing with my marriage. But that's how a lot of people, that would be projection, right? That's how a lot of other people would be. Melissa is, in my opinion, now that doesn't mean she doesn't cry. That doesn't mean she's not vulnerable. That doesn't mean she's not jealous. All the stuff, but Melissa is good. So it really, to your question, what did I feel? I feel like it was just Danielle having a reaction. I don't know that I agree with the reaction. And Danielle, as great as she is, and we love Nate, we love the kids. She just is teetering because she continues to align with the less than stellar team, the lackluster team. So it may, you make your choices. So, go ahead, Danielle. Go ahead.
Here was my thing on the response. The way that the show was portraying Melissa and Joe at the time is that they were actually having marriage problems, that Joe potentially didn't want to be, or Joe didn't potentially want to continue the marriage. That's how it was portrayed, not to necessarily say that that's what was happening. So I want to clarify that before everybody in the Twitterverse and the TikTok world comes for me. But I think Margaret's response was right. So if you're having problems with your spouse and they're acting out and they're acting like they don't want to be part of the marriage anymore, the last thing you want to do as a friend, as a man to a man, or a man, or anything, just as a genuine friend or woman to woman, is say, go chase that person because they're acting up and they're not aligning with you right now. But if you're portraying that you're potentially on the verge of a divorce or leaving or taking a break for a while, I think the response of, you can technically have anybody that you want. You're a great person. You're a great personality. You can do, you can find someone in a minute. AKA, yes, you can find someone. If you want to work this out, I support it as well, because only you know your marriage. I didn't take it as Margaret necessarily encouraging Melissa to go find someone that's bigger and better. I took it as if this is where it's really heading, don't worry, you're gonna be okay. Just like, just like the girls on Miami did for Lisa. Like, don't chase this man. It's not working, because it wasn't. He already found someone else. So the last thing that they wanted to do was encourage her to continue to chase something that's it's Voldemort. It's not gonna happen. It's not there. It's gone. It's missing. Go, you're okay. You're gonna be all right. And I think that's where Margaret was coming from. So Danielle's response to it, as much as I love her, she wasn't necessarily part of that situation. So I think she only took the bits and pieces of what she felt happened, which is okay, because the best we can do is understand to the extent that we're given. And so I think if she had more context, she might have thought the way that I'm thinking towards it. But I didn't take it as, I think Margaret believes that Melissa should go find someone bigger and better and up herself and one up Joe. I think Margaret intended it as, if this is where you're going, you're going to be all right. You can find someone. You're gorgeous. You're still young. You're still prosperous in life. You have a lot going for you. Like, don't worry about if you lose your marriage or not. Yes,
which is what
yes, it's going to be all right.
Which is what you and I have been saying forever. We are, and I am, Team Gorga all day, every day. But at any moment's notice, if Joe steps out and does something silly, Melissa is going to, well, maybe not anymore, but this is what I used to say. Melissa's going to be with Mark Anthony in 5 seconds, and the same thing if Melissa were to step out. Joey's going to have him something, not, it wouldn't be of a desire to me, but he's going to have a little 24-year-old or something like that. Like, it's just, these two are confident people. They could have their own problems, sure. But yeah, no, we've said that. So whatever Margaret said, we said. Now, Danielle does have the right to feel defensive. I talked about that. I think you and I don't know if it was our Miami recap or this New Jersey recap. We talk about like where you as a human get to jump in with your level of defensiveness. And I know that I think you called me on it once. You're like, ooh, that was very Larsa of you. And it is because I maybe like Danielle there. I sometimes get hot and bothered and excited when I don't need to, so it's really, I used to say it a lot, not in a mean way, but like ignorance is bliss. Some people just like let everything roll off. Other people make, what did Danielle say? I would be mad if somebody said that, it's insinuating that my marriage is on rocky ground. I don't like that. Well, Danielle, you're welcome to that. You are welcome to feel that. She's welcome to feel that. Yeah. It's a thing of defensiveness that we have to pick and choose our battles in terms of what we're going to defend. And it's something that I struggle with. So I'm not even knocking Danielle. Like, I struggle with it myself.
Yeah. And
you seen me do it on the show. You're like, Ronnie, relax.
Look, I think there might be something funny going on with the production team right now, like in every Housewives franchise. I think they're trying to find their place of being equally woke and being equally dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like if they're not feminist enough, the fans are going to come for them. If they're not pro-independence enough, the fans are going to come for them. If they're not... there's a lot of things that they have to take into consideration now, because it's like, you'll be canceled tomorrow. Twitter will cancel you. Everybody's going to cancel you. And it's like,
well, I think cancelable things are they're merited, but the problem with Bravo is they keep trying to suffice anything that gets brought up. They don't really stand on much. And, like, this is the show we're doing. Like, this is the show that makes sense. They will take anything and run with it and suddenly, like, cower in a way. And I think that's really one of the challenges they've been having. And, it's like one of the sentences I think we definitely said this on Miami, like, you're getting mad at, in this case, it would be Larsa. You're getting mad at, or whoever, Alexia, but like, the viewers do know they're not watching a PBS documentary, right? Like, this show is about, unfortunately, hate to say it, pitting people against each other. There's the scene, go. And then they act in bad behavior and suddenly the moral police wants to come in. Like, at some point, but that's what Jersey's good for. I don't think anyone really trips on Jersey in terms of, I think they let it rock a little, don't you?
I think so. But I think sometimes we're a little bit more woke in places that we don't need to be woke in. And I think I think there's a small case of that in here. And again, living in Los Angeles, and we'll be moving on to the softball game in just a minute. But living in Los Angeles, we see how this works. You see when they're shooting WAGs and when they're shooting all these other reality shows or just everything on Melrose Avenue, they're all sitting in a blacked out Suburban or GMC, and they're doing the entrance multiple times of, oh, hi, how are you? And then the producers take them to the side and like, oh, we need you to be really more interactive, or we need you to walk in with more of an attitude. And then it's like, hi, how are you? Good to see you. You know, it's we have to remember some of this is doctored up. So maybe Danielle had other feelings, but again, I was like,
well, you know what?
Really,
I mean, if we're gonna go, if
Margaret was trying to convince her to leave him, like, no.
The producers may have asked that same question 19 times. On the 20th time, or they said it a little differently, she said that. Not to go too far behind the scenes, but I do remember. But I mean, for you, not you, but for people to not make it like production is stirring the pot is crazy, because they are, or to make it like it is so authentic, but at the same time, it's what gets ran. So when I did the Fuse television show, which was semi-reality, two things that stuck out to me is that when I got the next round, I was like, you know, the winner in San Diego, you're going to go to New York to compete. I think I told you this before. I like was quiet and humble and, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. And then they were like, oh no, but like, you, like in this case, you won, like give us your reaction. It took me 5 reactions. And on the 6th one, I was like, yeah, baby, what? Like, didn't even sound like how I talk. And that's the one they used. And beyond that, we did this one scene where we had to walk to the studio, and we never understood it at the time, but all of us had to walk separately. So it'd be a pack of us and one separate, pack of us, one separate. So we did it like 12 times. I was like, why are we doing this? Well, then when the show ran back, they asked one guy, what do you think of the haters online? He answered the haters online, but they used it as if he was saying, we're the haters. And they ran the clip of him being in the corner by himself as the quote unquote front runner. Like he didn't rock with us, but he was like my best friend. These shows are wild. These shows are wild. So
Ronnie Jr., you might have signed an NDA that you don't know about.
Oh, well, I didn't tell you what network it was. Oh, I did. But you don't know the production. I won't tell you. The production has been dissolved.
Production is waiting.
No.
They're ready to fight.
Not a sound effect. Let's talk about Dolores and this softball game. You're getting me too excited right now.
I mean, we want to talk about Dolores and the softball game. Let's talk about the fact that it was a charity event. At the end of the game, they ended up raising over $200,000. But let's really talk about how they made some money, just so we can have a little bit of medicine. So I'm gonna bring up your medicine.
I see. You're shifty.
Then we're gonna bring up my medicine.
Oh no.
So I think these were the front runners and why they made so much money. Okay,
Danielle, you're forgiven. I don't even know what you did wrong, but you are forgiven, Danielle. Oh, Danielle got a nice situation, don't she? She got, fun kids. She's gorgeous. Like, she comes home, for the ham and cheese. Like, it's good. It's good. Good for her.
Does it say ham and cheese?
I don't think I would ever be mad.
What is a ham and cheese, Ronnie Jr.? What is a ham and cheese?
All the fixings, all the stuff.
What fixings might these be?
Yeah, all of it. You're not an amateur.
Some of our viewers might be, again.
Okay, well,
everybody wants a ham and cheese. While Teresa was having a bologna on white, and we ain't gonna talk about that time. But why Teresa Giudice was having a bologna on white bread, Danielle gets to come home to a ham and cheese.
The kudos, though, so much on 2 aspects of Dolores, putting together the calendar to raise money. And then this event, it's really good for the show. And this now makes it like a tradition, and I always love when organically things become traditions on Housewives, like I don't even like in New York. I think they had maybe went to the Berkshires once before, but like it wasn't until they were at Dorinda's house. It was the Berkshires is going to be every season. And so very similarly, like every season, we'll get excited about this charity event.
Well, I think this is better than the Posh Fashion Show. Like,
oh my, don't do Housewives. Kim D like that.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. Like, I like Kim D. We're friendly with each other. We've exchanged messages. I have her phone number, text messages. I could probably reach out to her and she would come on the show anytime.
Good.
But the Posh Fashion Show was known as the blow up event. every year. Something
That's
would
true.
happen. Something would happen, and it gets tiring. And I bet you Kim D was probably tired of being the villain, and she probably didn't want her business to be portrayed like that anymore. So the fact that we have something nice of like, this is a good charity event that, yes, there's a little bit of drama, but it's bigger. Our charity is bigger than the drama, which is great. And, and I think it was a great moment when I saw Jen, Aydin, and Rachel talk about Olivia and them really kind of, even though they might not be best friends, but them kind of mending that bridge again and making it about the child in a positive way. Rachel asking Jen, hey, has she always wanted to be a counselor? Like, it kind of broke my heart that she said she wanted to be, a marriage counselor or about love. And Jennifer said, no, she's always wanted to be on stage for Broadway. And so I think it was a moment for them to bond as moms and to really kind of be almost advocates for each other of how is Jennifer going to navigate this information about Bill's infidelity coming out, and how can Rachel be there for her as a mom to help support her daughter in her actual goals that she's always wanted, opposed to focusing on their marriage itself.
Oh, this was a tough one because I don't know if I don't have a lot of sympathy for the situation because I'm not a Jennifer Aydin fan, never have been, never will be, never was one from the beginning. Like, she was a non-castable, is that a word? It's not. She was a non-castable, like she luckily like snuck in kind of a thing. Like she, in no casting director's office should she have made this show. And she's made it for all these seasons. It's really where miracles happen. But I think the thing to like it's this where it's challenging is that she's trying to mama bear the situation, but it's really like the big dig and diss to Marge. And like, I just feel like at some point it's very hard to feel sorry for Jen. And it is a challenging situation, but is it a challenging situation where you were going tit for tat, throughout the years, and this was just one, like what's again, back to the victim aspect, what's the difference between the tit for tat where Jennifer Aydin could throw things towards Jennifer, towards Margaret, and you don't hear Margaret say, well, she mean girl, she was a mean girl, you didn't hear that from Marge. You just heard Marge say, well, you want to know something? This is what you want to know. Here, Bill, da, 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 da. And at the end of the day, the other part about it, and this is not me not having sympathy, but it's like nobody, this is a stretch in terms of how I'm going to get my mind there, but let's just try. Okay. Nobody has sympathy for Jen Shaw and what she did in terms of, the activities, right?
Yeah.
But one would say, well, Jen Shaw, if you had that going on, why the heck would you do this show?
Yes.
But at the same time, I am happy that Jen Aydin got to have this experience, but you also can't get mad. This is what comes with the show. This right here is exact. Like you would have had to, you can't get mad at somebody like Marge and make it who you were coming at too. Yeah. But then this was part of your story. You should have and had to know that if I do this show, I mean, this should have been a conversation with Bill. If we do this show, there is a small, very small chance that this could come out.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time finding the sympathy. I'm not going to be mean because I do think that is so damn hard to deal with. I've got my kids. Forget if I'm not good with the other women. Forget if the fans don't like me. She still is a mother of five. I think it may have been a situation if it was me and my husband had done that maybe we turn this show down, or maybe we say, let's do friend of. Let's have some fun. I launched my businesses. Yeah. It's real tough there. Mm-hmm.
You know what, too? This is why, and
God, we talk. We're an hour of talk already.
But going to counseling, I can tell you experience from this. It's better to be upfront with your kids than it is for them. Because again, Olivia found out on TikTok. And here's the thing about TikTok, right? And we're just going to go down this for
do you think that's true though? So you're saying when the show, let's say this issue happened, Marge said it, Jen now goes home, tells Bill what happens, knows that it's going to come up on the show.
Yes.
You think Jen did not go to her kids first and it was on TikTok before?
Yes.
Well, then that does not seem smart by Jen Aydin's account.
I agree with that 100%. But when you're in a rock and a hard place, and you know what I mean? When you're in a rock and a hard place, you're trying to get ahead of it. Like they say in PR, get ahead of it and you'll be fine. You're trying to get ahead of it, but at the same time, trying to strategize on how this is going to minimize the effect on your kids. But then kids are so much more inclined to be digging on the internet unintentionally and inadvertently find out something that might have happened, especially celebrity kids in their own life. So now you have Olivia who's on TikTok, and you have all these people who have their opinions on TikTok. And it's rumored that Bill Aydin had an affair with on Jennifer Aydin while she was pregnant. And it's like, does my daddy not love you? You know, and that's such a hard thing for a child to process. You know, opposed to you and I, we might see it as like, you know, there might have been a little rough patch, and Bill might have wanted to get it in somewhere, you know, just for a smidge, but he might have not wanted to be with her romantically. And so you and I can differentiate, again, desire, experience, and love. You and I can differentiate all three of those things and put that out of sight, out of mind, and be like, no, they weren't in love. He definitely just wanted to have sex with her, and that was it. And he wanted to add that to his tally. Whatever, because you and I also know how men think.
I don't know that straight people do it that well as we do it.
I don't know if they do it that well either.
That is one thing I've learned. Like the straights have a hard time with that. Maybe it's because they are upholding. You know, you start out in life as like the man, the woman, the white picket fence, the two dogs. Like, but once you as a gay man, once you come out, you like learn. It's the greatest thing ever. You learn. You could define life as long as everybody, you know, everything is good. You could define it as you want. You know, I'm going to sound really cold here. I should, and I was only going to say it if you asked, but you know, now I'm going to just say it. I think, lightly. Okay. Well, the cold thing I'm going to say, it's not that cold actually.
Okay.
Is I'm not really, I'm not really certain that Olivia said these things. I'm actually, you spoke on strategy. I think it's more strategic on Jen Aydin's part to make us all feel really sorry. Like, I'm not sure Olivia is, I mean, she could be hurt by it, but the way that it was expressed was a little too perfect, if you ask me. A little too feel for me. What do I do now? I mean, you know, I don't know. It just didn't, I hate that here's my defense of that. I hate that I have to think that about Jen Aydin, but what has Jen Aydin done on this show that has given us sincerity?
Okay. And I can see where you're coming from. This is only speculation, or I can only go by what's being told to me, and I can only go by what's being presented on the show, right? But it also drew me back to the moment when Caroline Manzo looked into the camera on her confessional several seasons back about Danielle Staub's daughter, saying that there's no light in their eyes. And then Danielle bringing it up at the reunion, saying that Christine was offended to know what Caroline mentioned about them, right? And Caroline looked at Danielle and said, your kids don't watch the show. However, as you and I know, everyone talks, kids hear what their parents have to say. If your kids are going to school with a housewives child and your child overhears this, we know kids are mean. Yeah. Oh, baby, do we know what kids are mean? If I can lock all my nieces and nephews in the cage and make sure that they have personality and keep them away from harm, I would. But they've experienced their issues, and they're teachable moments. So do I think it's entirely far-fetched that Olivia learned this on TikTok? I don't think so. I think TikTok, and this is where I was going with the TikTok thing. TikTok in America is a way different experience than TikTok is across seas in China, right? The algorithm pushed in China is encouragement of education, doctors, lawyers, the algorithm and the ads that are fed to those kids are to be insight and inspirational to pursue, good Samaritan careers that really give you knowledge and working skills in society. And what's pushed in society in America on that social media is wanting to be a TikTok star and dances and viral trends and, the latest and greatest reality show, right? Those are what's going on in the algorithm here. So that's why I specifically don't see it being so far-fetched And again, Jen Aiden's been on the show multiple seasons, so she knows how to pitch and articulate herself to where it does work in her favor. But again, you know, Jen Aiden is not the Kardashian. She doesn't have a whole PR team and security that's out there, and everybody has signed an NDA. She does have a past life prior to NDAs. Kris Jenner had people signing NDAs immediately out the door as soon as she knew where she wanted her daughters to go, right? So that's why the Kardashians don't have these issues, and they can address it with their kids prior to it coming out. Or, you know, just like Ray J and Kim Kardashian's tape, her kids would probably have not come across that yet, or they've probably been able to hide it so well because they can do damage control, right? So it's like, it's unfortunate if that is how Olivia found out, and now it's in a place of, what do? Do you limit your kids from being on social media because they're going to keep finding things out about the show? Or do you ask the production team, hey, as you're putting together these episodes, I need you to relay that message to me as I'm going to continue on this show? And I think that would be collective agreement amongst all the housewives. We need to know what's being said and what's out there so that we can catch this with our kids, because this is our kids' lives that is being tampered with now, right? With the general public and the scrutiny and their opinions and their theories and all of the conspiracies that are going on. This is what's going to affect my child in the long run, and what's going to potentially ruin their life and their self-confidence, right? And not trying to go dark here, but just trying to speak reality.
In the way you're saying it, I do care.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I didn't care when I said what I said.
No. I think
I do care.
I think your opinion, do care. And I think your take on it is very well respected. And not only that, like it can very much possibly be that situation. I'm just saying, you know, again, we got to be woke, and we got to make sure we cross all of our bases here so that people don't think we're insensitive when it comes to these things. You know, my own parents have been through their own separation. So I know how this works, and I know how it works when people talk. And so that's coming from my perspective, from my experience, you know, so we all have our own experiences, but I hope that Rachel, despite the issues that her and Jen have, I hope that Rachel is like, look, girl, you and I might have these issues, but at the end of the day, we're on a syndicated television show, and I got your back when it comes to our kids. And I really hope that any housewife franchise or any reality franchise would be that way, because it showed how human Rachel was, to be like, you know, I don't like Jennifer Aydin, but like, it breaks my heart to hear her daughter say this, because I want her daughter to be happy just like I want my kids to be happy.
And you're right. And Jennifer Aydin should follow Rachel's lead. She should say, I have been lackluster on this show for so many seasons, and already Rachel is more compelling when she's not even trying. She hasn't even really tried yet. Maybe I should follow Rachel's lead. I think that's maybe where Jen Aydin can do well.
And I mean, and I think them being friendly was nice. That was nice. Now, who's not being friendly are Frank and Dolores, because of Pauly. And I don't know if maybe I like Frank. I do. I think he has a lot of personality. He's really, only he can pull off certain, only he could pull off something like this, and it not like, you know, just, it fits his personality. He's fun. He's go with the flow. He'll do anything for his kids. He'll do anything for Dolores. Now, every man has his boundaries when it comes to their relationship. Frank is hurt because of how Paul is demanding the space between Frank and Dolores. I potentially feel that Frank feels that he might lose out on the show. And this is, you know, any source of income is great, especially when we're in a time like this where inflation is damn near 15%, right? Any cash flow is good money. Any money is good money at this point. If it's dirty money, just get it and put it away, clean it up in the stock market, right? Not saying I've done that, but if it works for you,
you got to say allegedly sometimes. You got to sneeze the word allegedly.
You know, if you got to become a stripper and you got to get that tip money and you got to put that in the stock market, it cleans it up. But
I don't not agree with you, and it's funny you stated it, so I didn't have to really.
I try to be fair.
At what point is it that, oh, I miss Dolores, or do you miss what being Dolores's one and only guy afforded? And also, it created a bad scenario for her, because she was able to be, even though I think David is much more of a fit. I like David a lot. Maybe I don't know. I'm just not there with Pauly just yet. But at the same time, Pauly's where we're at. This is who she loves. So let's rock with it. Right. But I think one of the things about Frank being able to be there and fill that role, fill that void, it made Dolores be able to date an unavailable man in David. And so, I mean, even though I don't like fully feel Pauly is the guy, I mean, if he's saying, no, I can't have your ex all in our business like that, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I really was going to tell you, and I'm glad you did, that how much of it is just feeling left out, not part of this. I mean, this, regardless of money, I would almost say Frank would do this for free. Like, it's an exciting thing. And you now are losing it all. You know, I mean, maybe that's why he's bringing his girlfriend Brittany around. He's like, get honey, get in there.
Again, and I would love if Brittany was part of the show, even though she's significantly younger. It's a reality. It's a fact of reality, right? Men have these relationships. I myself was in a relationship with someone who was a few years older. We're not going to say exactly how many. It wasn't 20 by any means, but you know, someone that was a little older. And so these are the times that we're in, right? We're in a different stage of life and we're learning this and we're learning that. And it's okay to date outside of your age range. And, you know, you can relate on things, but things start to change as people start to age. Now, with that being said, I think I'm still an advocate for Frank and Paul being good friends and for Dolores to remove herself away from Frank, because at the end of the day, like, Frank and Pauly are both men who love women. So therefore, there is going to be that alpha male competition that goes on when it comes to one woman. Even though Dolores does not want Frank, it's still the mentality and it's still the natural. I'm not going to even say natural. I'm just going to say, and it's going to be the instinct for a man of that subsection that represents men to act that way and want to protect their relationship. I think I did an okay job with explaining it and what I mean. So I would like to see them become buddies, because I think Frank is he's a great addition when it comes to the men and the husbands group. I think he is. I would love to see his girlfriend become part of the women's group, small as a friend aspect, and her and Dolores get along, because again, they're both engaging with Frank and Dolores's kids. So why not be friendly? Do we need to spend all the time in the world with each other? No. But do I think it's a smart move for Frank to bring his girlfriend on the show more now so that he has camera time? Absolutely.
And she knew Rachel years ago. I think if you were to ask me like questions, not ask me, but we were able to ask Brittany, if we were able to ask Brittany questions, I think it would be like, how did you feel? Like, I know you had to be okay with it because it seemed like Frank was already attached to Dolores when Brittany did decide to date Frank, but like, how much better do you feel knowing, like, did it bug you at all? And even if it didn't bug you, it's got to feel a little bit better, right? I think kind of what you were saying, like, as much as all these, David likes Frank and they were in the shower together, whatever, all this stuff, it's still kind of uncomfortable because territorially, right? Is that you do, that I'm with Dolores, is what Pauly's saying. I would be interested to know what Brittany has always felt about this. Yes, she had to accept it while it was happening, but maybe she feels like, yeah, no. Like, I didn't really love it. I dealt with it, but I'm glad he's giving himself distance from Dolores. Dolores is a beautiful woman. She's the star of this show. Like, it was hard to compete with that. I would love to hear Brittany say those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's about time Brittany comes on the show. If they've been together as long, and Dolores did say they've been off and on for a little bit, but if they're in a good place and they've been together long enough, whether it was off and on and now they're great and they've been solid together for a year and a half, I think it's the time for her to come on the show.
Can I
go? Tell me.
No, because this is a topic. Keep going. But it's funny.
Again, like, do I think it's a little far-fetched of like, I made myself cry the other day? Like, no, you know what you lost. And especially for the person that ruined the relationship, they're always going to think to themselves, man, I missed out on something great, right? And I've had that experience myself where I was the something great that got missed out on because you messed up. Right.
Now that Dolores is winning, I don't want to lose it. Let's get a camera. Let's do an April Fool's. Let's get a camera on Frank. and then say, oh, well, you know, Dolores is leaving the show because Paulie didn't want her on the show anymore. And let's get his reaction. Is he still feeling that, oh, I cried without Dolores? Like, is he still giving that?
Yeah.
And I hate that we have no reason to feel that. You know how I made a couple like comments about Jennifer Aydin? It's because she never really gives us honesty. Frank, I don't have no real reason, but I kind of feel like I feel it, Frank. I feel that it was a beneficial situation that your ex was on this giant show, and it has been said, you know, just in the, you know, Twitterverse, that they didn't necessarily have this kooky, funny relationship prior to the show. So, you know, in fact, one of the very first times, because my mother does not watch these shows, but one of the very first times she had watched, she's like, why is the ex always around? And the first thing I could think of is because it's television, you know, and I hate that, but that's the truth. Okay. Corny moment for Melissa Gorga, just because I do love her so much. And so I'm always talking so highly of her. So if she does something kind of silly, I would love to be fair and be like, Melissa, girl, stop. So Dolores is saying, oh, Paulie has to have open heart surgery. Such a big, scary thing. And Melissa's first comment was, oh, he's not here because he doesn't want to see this guy, Frank the Tank, or something like that. I was like, Melissa, please do not make silly ass jokes
like,
why this man is
surgery, girl.
Read the room, Gorga. Like, and usually I never, but Melissa, that you did that, and we laughed at you for the first time, really. Doesn't happen much, but I was like, Melissa, don't say that. You can't say that.
I mean, I wouldn't think that it's not that bad of something to say when you're that.
No,
close
it wasn't mean. Corny.
Yeah.
Not mean, but very corny. I was like, Melissa, girl, you don't, because, you know, Lord forbid anything would have went, you know, like, what, Dolores? Is it because Paulie didn't want to be around this guy? Like, Melissa, stop it. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Yes, no, that could very much be a very awkward situation. Could be. But, you know, I like you were saying, and I try to be fair. I try to see both sides of the spectrum here, and I always try to dissect the show as it presents itself, right? So I know you and I talk Housewives all the time, and there was a housewife that had an opinion about me, but again, we can only commentate on the sport that's being presented to us, right? So everybody on ESPN that commentates on football games and baseball games, they're not commenting on the individual's character as they know them personally, but they're commenting on the way and the ability that they played the game and that aspect. And so what I want everybody to know that watches this is that we're constantly talking about the aspects of this show as it presents itself each episode and what characteristics you presented thus far. Now, if you're inviting me over for mimosas and cocktails and I get to know you individually, then I can defend you in a different aspect of, yes, this is what the show is presenting. However, I've been to their house, we have drinks, and it's not that at all. This is very much the way that it was edited. So I want everybody to know before they come for us that we always try to commentate on the episode itself and what has been presented this season or past seasons and referencing things, because that's all we can do is we can only pull from what we know so far. If you want us to know more, you can find me at Russell X Raymond on Instagram and invite me over, and I will jump on a plane, baby, and I will be at your house, and I will bring my own wine and champagne, and we can share. But if you want me to know you better and you want me to be in your corner, go ahead and invite me over.
The jet setter's telling truths right there, and that's okay. Just to piggyback on that, and we do got to move on. The perspective, the lens that we're coming at it is, of course, what is presented, but also you heard it a bit ago. I was saying, did Danielle actually kind of feel that way, or was that the sixth take? You know what I mean? Like, was it, you know, the producer coming at her from this angle to this angle to this angle, like to kind of ramp her up a little bit, because again, I've been on a reality TV episode on the TLC network. I did the Fuse TV project. I was on a show on Mundos as well. Like, I've done a couple of things, as well as segment producing on the back end and radio for 20 years. So we're giving our perspective. Russell's on Peacock Streaming's Create the Escape, so he's of course been around cameras too. So we're just giving that perspective from all of those, the aspect of that lens. But beyond that, to what you were joking about, you were saying one of the housewives had specifically jumped into my DMs to try to read Russell, which I respectfully still got along with her, but I respectfully was like, no. Like he actually knows what he's talking about. But what I remember telling her, and what I will say here too, we won't mention the name of the person because the person is lovely. The concept is, what part of the show are you watching? Because we are fair. You know what I mean? And I'm on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do correspondent work with Jonesy in the Morning, New York City, 94.7. New York City,
94.7, baby.
The biggest,
New York City.
The biggest radio market. And at any time, somebody could say, I don't like what you do, Ronnie. Yeah. I just got to take it in stride. And so what we're doing is, we're not ripping on a housewife. This is the scenario. You hear me say a lot of really positive things about Jen Aydin, even though generally, I don't really enjoy her on the show. But the parts and the aspects of her and Olivia, I feel for her. The therapy session, I was there. Not there. I was feeling it. I was feeling the emotion. Yeah.
Speaking of the therapy session, what do you think we're going to see? Maybe, and I'm not, and again, I don't wish any bad upon anyone, but do you maybe think that we're going to see like kind of a sticky situation here between Bill and Jennifer because of the show? And the reason I asked that is because it could well have been let go 10 years ago when it happened. But the fact that you're in the limelight now, there's this pressure of, and this is how you know if you're meant to be on television or not. There's this pressure of, you let him cheat on you when you were pregnant and you let it go, and it was a don't ask, don't tell situation. And there's all of these outside influences that are kind of swaying you to feel a different way, opposed to having already handled it within. Now it has to publicly be addressed. So where do you feel that this is going to go? Because Jennifer went in from, we're going to go talk about this to a counselor, to, I feel like I'm your doormat. You come home and I'm raising the kids, and you disappear into your man cave for 3 hours and then you go to bed. Because I feel like it was almost an attack on Bill.
Yeah.
And like, grant you, like, should he be held responsible for cheating? Absolutely, 100%. But if it's something you already took care of, maybe it just should have been swept under the rug on the show, as in, we've already took care of this. It ain't none of your business, girl. Like, did he cheat? Yes. Did I cheat? Maybe, and then continue on with the show and not let it be a thing. But now it's a thing.
I think she just puts first a very calculated story arc. I think that's the first thing that she does. But I think one thing that, because again, based on how we say, we're judging based on what we're presented, but we also got to judge on what we feel. And I honestly feel that even though in these really difficult and complicated situations where it would be Bill's best interest to explain himself or express himself and say, like, to the therapist, the counselor, or to her, hey, this is what I feel and this is what I struggle with, or this is why I have to go to the pool house. I feel like while he doesn't show up in the filming, and it's funny because the even kill is in the middle, but she shows up extra and kind of puts extras on it, and he shows up less. And I don't think that's because he doesn't care. If I were to put my money on it, I would say that off camera and behind the scenes, he finds ways to affirm her. Not necessarily saying because of his error, 10 years ago, but I think he does show up for her in a way that would prevent her from wanting to leave. And I think he does have a mental resolution of like, I'm going to let this rock as long as it can. And I want to support her in all of this, but it just, just like I think he gives her a pass for her bad behavior because he knows that she wants this so much. And you can't change your personality. Like Jennifer Aydin has already presented this personality on the show. So I think he, I think he really, when the cameras are down, I think he shows up. As simple as I could say it.
I think so too. It was just it was a cringing moment to me. Anytime it comes to infidelity and it comes to, I'm not even against counseling. I think if it's a one-on-one shrink type of situation, it's great. But the fact that they went in and this has been said, and that we're concerned about our child, and then it turned as, I feel like I don't do enough for you because of these reasons.
I'm an employee. Yeah.
Yes, which then makes me feel like this is going to go into some unnecessary reopened can of worms that it didn't need to be. Like, again, let's focus on the kid. Let's say, hey, we're in marriage counseling. This happened. I let it go. And even if there is a new problem, you know, there is this new problem of, I'm concerned about the way that he comes home and he is, you know, absent sometimes because he has such a stressful job. And I get it. I get what a stressful job is because I work one, right? You come home, you want to decompress. Sometimes you want to go hit the punching bag at the gym because this job can be very, mind you, everybody knows I have multiple jobs, so we're not going to talk about which job, but one of them specifically brings, you know, me more anxiety and things like that. So I want to disconnect from the world, and I want to just not even become a recluse, but I just want to go focus on my routine. I want to cook at home. I want to go to the gym. I want to do these things. So, and I think Jen and Bill have been in the marriage long enough to know that Jen can differentiate him needing to disconnect, because surgery is very intense. Doing any type of surgery is not easy. If he's doing implants or a nose job or a Brazilian butt lift or a tummy tuck, like, none of those are easy, right? So why would you want to come home and be like, hey, let me engage with you and just be the happiest man on earth? It's hard. It's hard. You're seeing tissue and blood and staples, and you're focused, and you know, you could have a complicated issue where your patient is a smoker and you didn't know this because they lied on all of their pre-op forms, and you didn't find out until you actually got in there and you seen the lungs and you said, wait a minute, that's not how that's supposed to look. You know, there's a lot of different things that can play into this. And so my hope, even though they're in marriage counseling, would be to figure out how they're going to get Olivia and the rest of their kids on the path of, mom and dad are fine. Give them that security that kids want. Mom and dad are okay. Mom and dad love each other. Mom and dad love you more than anything else in the world. And the last thing we're going to let happen is for your world to fall apart, because dad and I are good. So I think they need to figure out how they're going to reestablish that confidence and explain to them that the outside world's opinions, regardless of how much you and I love Housewives, the outside world's opinions don't matter, which is why I like our shows that you and I do, because I don't feel like we read too far into it. We try to be fair. We try to read it for what it is. But at the same time, like, we have to make it compelling. But I don't think we do it in a clickbaity way. I think we do it in a compelling aspect of, wow, they really dissected this show or episode that makes sense. And they gave theories that are relatable. And that's my hope for this show, is that people take from Housewives, even though it's an enjoyable franchise, is that we can all relate to it in a little way. And it doesn't need to be because of the drama. And we don't need to idolize the drama. We need to actually respect real life situations and aspects that come from the show. And so,
I think the break in the fourth wall part is having squinting and saying, Jen, Aydin, it feels like, you know, you guys went into this situation. It feels like he's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna let Jen, but like, Jen, go. You know, Jen's behavior is not the greatest on the show, but wants to support his wife because it's something she wants to do. You know what I mean? I feel like he recognizes that and always wants to support it. But I think the real critique that the fan base will have is like, Jen, so long as you don't go too far and like remove yourself from who you are at the core, you know. And we've seen people, once they get in that television, that allure becomes the biggest, you know, seducer of them all. And that's, I think, why when I'm ripping Jen Aydin to shreds. I do it a little bit more peaceful because it's not really about anything about her. It's like, okay, you really seem to be going like a little too far off. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to suit you. Like that's not going to suit you in the long term. When this show is good and gone, you still got to like still be amongst your kids, or you may be divorced at that moment. Who knows? You may be with Mark Anthony or a ball player. Who knows? But at the same time, it's sometimes hard to watch. So I think that's where our perspective comes from sometimes.
I think so too. And I hope, we only saw the tail end of what was but the beginning of what was going on in this counseling session. So I hope, with that being said, that the next episode brings us some more closure and where they're at instead of leading it into more drama. I really hope that it brings us closure, as in Bill and I are okay. Margaret, despite you bringing this up, and I know I poke at you, but it ain't going to affect me. I'm going to be A-okay. And I hope Margaret has the same perspective of you can bring whatever you want and you can talk to whomever you want of my ex-friends, but you're not going to break me because I'm a self-built woman, which Margaret really is, because you have to remember the history between Marge Sr. and Marge, right? Like Margaret really did kind of raise herself in a way. And she is a self-built woman, and she's been sued by Vineyard Vines because she runs her own business. And there's a lot of things that she has going for herself that are not going to break her. So again, I think the one thing that we could take away from this episode is that Dolores raising $200,000 was the greatest thing for charity, right? Because if you're going to take your platform, use it for good, use it to monetize, but use it for good.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in this world together. It's all going to shit and it's falling apart at the same time. None of us are going to escape it, whether you can get in a bunker or not, because once it's gone, it's gone. Like, none of us have it.
It's gone. And then we like the new girls. And the only thing I'm not, I'm a little like, is Danielle and Jackie having issues, and we're kind of seeing that's going to happen. I'm not a fan of that. I like them both, so we will see. I mean, and it is so easy to be the full-time, sort of have that dominant, presence. So I don't know, like, where we're going to go with that. Does Jackie put her foot in her mouth? I don't think so. And I love Jackie. And also sometimes, anyways, that's a tangent. We'll talk about Jackie next week.
The only thing that can bring them together are these two men.
Oh, right. And Jackie, what does she say? Because Jackie I think Jackie is trying to kind of show up a little bit more. I've never thought she was boring. She's boring. She's this, she's that. No, Jackie feels familiar to me. Like like a stern, like not low energy, like you're not excited, but a like non-phony girl. She's like, that's what she feels like. But anyways, it's like she had been the non-giving head lady on the show.
She was that for a minute.
And so this particular episode, when they were showing the calendar, she was like, "Oh yeah, I want to mess with him now," or said it more raw than that. "I want to screw him now." And I'm like, Jackie, damn well of all the girls, you were the one who was the least like adventurous when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Like, I want to do the most vanilla things to him that I possibly can.
Yeah, but it was a good episode. I didn't think it was boring. I know people like to be like it's boring if there's no big drama, but I'm good with it. I think the complicated Joe Gorga, seeing Teresa and how he wants to stay away, but then trying his best when they're looking at the calendar. Sometimes when you have like an issue with your family, you really can't talk to each other, but you could talk through each other by way of a thing. Like we could watch a TV show together, but we can't sit here and talk. So I don't know. It was complicated enough, and we all relate to that because we all have those kind of issues. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Anyways, y'all, with that being said, it was a pleasure to be on your screens today and for sharing this moment with you. Or if you're playing this back, hey, it's great that you found us, but don't forget to subscribe. Go ahead and click that little subscribe button. Leave us a comment, give us some ratings. Let us know some topics that you want us to talk about down in the comments. Head over to Ronnie's podcast and head over to his Instagram and Twitter handle, and you can find that in the QR codes at the very beginning. Scan it with your smartphone, and it'll take you right over. Also, you can go right over to mine. I'm Russell Ray, and thank you for being with us today. Bye, y'all.